Well, guys, I'm here in Atlanta with Terry Myrick, linebacker of the Michigan Panthers. George boy right here, man. Really appreciate you coming on. I think it's real awesome, get a one-on-one. We're in person here, better than these Zoom interviews everyone's doing. So I got Terry here. Just want to introduce him. We're going to be talking for a little bit. And, if you guys got any questions, we'll do a follow-up interview and all that good stuff. But without further ado, I know no one wants to talk to me. We talk to the man right here, Terry Myrick, linebacker, Michigan Panthers. How you doing today, man?
Doing pretty well. Doing pretty well. Definitely appreciate the opportunity, being able to come out and interview with you. It means a lot with you guys reaching out to me and just wanting to learn a little bit more about me and who I am as a person outside of the playing field.
Well, it's definitely that, man. It's also, great for the league as well. So we can see, some of the stars of the league, some of the up and comers of the league. Because, sometimes we see some players come in with more NFL backgrounds and whatnot, and they kind of hog all the spotlight. And I don't want to come off as crass or anything like that, but I don't really want to know about Breland speaks. I want to know about the guys who are grinding, a lot more relatable to me, a lot more relatable to maybe some other guys out there who don't think the NFL is for them, so they can learn about the XFL, the USFL, and see guys succeed like you and a couple of the other players on the roster as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm a guy that's always been kind of overlooked, even coming out of high school, going up into college. And I knew when I was in college, I would have to kind of overachieve because you want to dominate at every level if you want to get a look to go to the next level. So just being able to present who I am as a person and as a player, it means a whole lot to me. I can't wait to get up there to Michigan and perform.
So keep going from high school. So originally coming out of Woodward Academy, I believe.
Correct.
Had a couple offers. How did George boy get to Michigan?
So I'll take it back to high school. I had a coach coming through our high school, our position coach. Well, not my specific position coach, but one of our co-defensive coordinators. His name is Ryan Davis. He did a really good job and still does a really great job of getting a lot of coaches to come through so guys can get looks. No matter what level of football, everyone's getting an opportunity to play if they desire to play at the next level. And he had a good relationship with the late Fred Reed. He was the corners coach at Eastern Michigan, and years prior, he was a coach for DBs at Syracuse. And Coach Reed was coming through since he had known Coach Davis, and he was at Eastern Michigan. He switched to Eastern Michigan. He was able to come through and check me out at spring practice, and he saw that people weren't able to block me real good, and he ended up extending me an offer.
So over the time in Eastern Michigan, obviously some all conference honors. You played with some dogs, man, over there. Obviously Brogan Roback, maybe not the most illustrious NFL career, but a little bit of TV famous, and then obviously man Max Crosby. Obviously being a younger guy around Max, what was that like? And when you see players like that, and I don't like calling Eastern Michigan a smaller school, but obviously it's not Power Five. How much do you see a guy like that, and you're just like, man, he ain't gonna be around here long. Like this dude's about to do some things.
Yeah, just coming in as a freshman, seeing Brogan and Max. I know Brogan was a really big deal when I got there. Brogan was a four-star guy out of Toledo, Ohio. Really, really big standout player in high school. And he continued that success at the college level. And just being on the field with Max, that was definitely a privilege, man. I didn't get a ton of opportunities to get on the same playing field with him as a freshman. Probably share like one or two snaps that season. But my sophomore year, I got an opportunity to give him some calls at linebacker behind him and just, share that opportunity to step on the field and be successful with Max. And we still have a relationship to this day. Really cool guy, one of the hardest working guys. I remember competing with him in spring, racing for our 40s and stuff, and pro agility 5, 10, 5s. I even used to give Max rides home. So it's kind of crazy to see how the tides change and how he's really doing really well. He's a really great person.
Now seeing him, what was his leadership ability like that? Obviously he was upperclassman, you were a sophomore, kind of getting a taste that freshman year, and then now it's that dramatic shift for not only you, because obviously our linebackers are always our leaders on the football field, but now him, playing against this or playing with this guy who you're like, yo, dude, this dude's gonna actually go to the NFL. Like, you know, obviously being in Atlanta, I'm sure you've met a bunch of dudes and played against guys who made that jump to the next level, but now you're inches away from this dude, like telling him what to do and being in the huddle, making calls. How is he helping with that for not just you, but younger players in general?
Hey, I was just an extension of the defensive coordinator at those times. Max was definitely the emotional leader of our defense. I mean, that guy was able to do a lot of things that other players couldn't do just off God-given ability and building that trust and foundation with our coaching staff. They knew that there would be some things that Max could take a chance at doing. You probably didn't need an extra support defender behind him because he was so long and gangly, and he was just a wiry player at defensive end. He had a high motor. The high motor you see in the NFL, that's something that he did in practice every day. He practiced ball disruption, punching the football out every single opportunity he got. We do run fits. I would be like the second team linebacker. So I would be in charge of running the football as a second team wheel linebacker. And he would always practice punching the football. I used to hate going against Max because he always punching at your forearms and stuff like that. But it worked, and it worked on Saturdays, and you see it working now on Sundays.
Now, obviously, Max leaves. I think that was 2019, 2020 comes around, a weird season for everyone in college football. It appears to me, watching some of your highlights and obviously looking at the stat line, that 2021 was you kind of coming into your zone a little bit. I think that's when you got all conference honors, and I think you had almost like 90 tackles or over 90 tackles. What was the culmination of that 2021 season for you as not only a football player but as a man, taking that next step? And like, is that when you kind of felt you're like, I'm not done here a little bit, like I can keep going somewhere somehow?
2021 was my final season. I think you're referring to 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, 2020 was actually the COVID year.
Yeah.
2020, I had a coming out. It was my true senior year. If we didn't have an opportunity to go back because of COVID, that would have been my final season plan. So I didn't know how things would work out. So I just knew that I had to put my best and most influential season out on tape. I had to do what I had to do to try to get to the next level. Everything had come full circle with me studying the playbook and, building relationships with the guys that are behind me and in front of me. And I just wanted to leave my legacy at Eastern if we didn't get another opportunity to play. So the bond that I built with my defensive coordinator, it all came out on tape. Like, he trusted in me in doing certain things, just like he had trusted Max, like I said prior to this. And I made a lot of different plays that I wasn't making before that.
You think it was kind of that final, like you were saying, that final motivator, like, hey, like, don't forget about this dude who came up here from Georgia type thing, like, just because I'm from, down south, like, because it seems like schools like Eastern Michigan, you'll see like in Central Michigan and whatnot in the MAC, you'll get those onesies and twosies, but it's a lot of Midwestern guys and in-state guys. So for me to see a dude from like, Antonio Brown going to Central Michigan, anyone coming from Georgia, it's always like, yeah, man, like don't forget these dudes can ball down here, and like, Florida football, Texas football, Georgia football is on a different level. So don't you forget about that type of thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I like to say that I opened that Georgia pipeline with recruiting at Eastern Michigan. We go down south a lot now with the Georgia guys and just the products that we're producing down here in Georgia. A lot of hard-nosed, gritty football players. One thing I learned when I was up in Michigan is that they don't have spring football up there. There's no spring football in Michigan at all. So it's just a whole nother level of experience that we're able to bring. We come with the heat and stuff like that. So we're already conditioned when we show up in the summer. Guys a little bit bigger down here too. So, we bring those advantages as well.
That's how I always feel, man, is like, you get like a second string anything in Georgia, you might be, I played football in New York, and a couple of guys that like I played with or were older than me were Kevin Ogletree, Dean Marlowe. He's on the Bills now. Devin Kajus, I played against him.
Okay.
And it's like, you see some of these other guys who are maybe that next tier below, and you're like, yeah, man, this guy, I think he can go to the show or something like that. And then he goes to, Rutgers, and, 4 years go by and 30 snaps, in his whole career. And you're kind of just like, man, New York football is not it, like we'll just stick to basketball and Coney Island type stuff,
That's another big reason why I chose Eastern, like you say, going to Rutgers and only getting 30 snaps. I mean, I had opportunities to play at different places, but at Eastern, I felt like I was at home when I was taking my recruitment trips and talking on the phone on a weekly basis with my coaches. I just felt at home, and I knew that I would have an opportunity to compete going there.
Now, moving past college, obviously, limited NFL interest. I'm sure there was phone calls and whatnot and like possible workouts. What was your motivating factor to keep going and based off what we talked offline, you got a lot of stuff going on in your personal life in a positive way.
Mhm.
Like, what was the motivating factor to, kind of like, hey, I'm going to keep giving this a spin, and like maybe we'll see what happens type thing.
Yeah. In college, I would say that 2020 season was really big for me. I wouldn't say I had a down season in 2021, but teams were able to game plan for me and call plays based upon the things that I excelled at. So they would run toward me instead of away from me because I'm definitely a backer that can run and chase down plays from the backside really well, sideline to sideline. They would put me out of the box based on the schematics of our defense. They would try to align me as far away from the ball as possible because they can dictate where I align based off the formation and stuff like that. It was just an odd year for me, but I had production. I'm a decent player, so I had good production. But in 2020, I knew that okay, I just put my best foot forward and let's try to go one up it. After that, I didn't feel like I one upped it. My stats didn't reflect that. So the coaches didn't really reflect that with reaching out as much anymore. And I just wanted to, turn all my chips over and try to weigh every opportunity. I was training for pro day, but my agent, he hit me with an idea of, hey, let's try to enter into the USFL draft. Let's just see how it works out. And if you get drafted, you can go. And if you end up getting drafted into the NFL, then we can just go there from there. But I just wanted to have all my options available, and it ended up being a great opportunity and a great decision in my decision making history.
I definitely agree with that because you saw in the USFL, especially after the draft hit up or finished up, there was a lot of guys who were signed who were 2020 UDFA's. I mean, you were. I think you did the productive thing, and there's another gentleman, Warren Saba, and unfortunately he got hurt. But both of you guys kind of just saying, you know what, I know I'm good enough to play at the professional level. I'm betting on myself. Unfortunately for Warren, he got hurt, but you put together a pretty productive season
Mm-hmm.
in a team that, that linebacking core, in my opinion, for the Panthers, like obviously there's some deficiencies and whatnot by the record, but I think you guys, I don't want, in my opinion, were an underestimated unit. And I think a lot of the problems in Michigan actually came from the defensive line than and put more pressure on you and Frank and whatnot. And maybe I'm speaking out of turn. That's just me interpreting the film. But I definitely loved what the whole linebacking room did there. And, what was your experience like with Coach Corral and did obviously being in Georgia with the Birmingham seasons of the Heat and whatnot kind of made a little bit of money for you as far as the conditioning aspect of everything as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. Going back to last year, I was literally training for my pro day. So, a lot of guys kind of get in the best shape of their lives when they're doing that. And not to say I'm not now, but when you're training for your pro day, your body is going through some things that it's never experienced before. And you're trying to present the best product to the people looking at you from the NFL. So that was definitely an advantage, as well as being from Georgia, being able to play in the heat and, being conditioned for that sun and humidity. When I got there to Michigan, I had met Dan Corral, over the phone and stuff in the draft process, but never in person. When we met, we really instantly kindled. He was a really, really good coach. This guy was someone that was coming from the collegiate ranks, just as I was. So we were wet behind the ears together. We both were wet behind the ears, and we all attacked it as one. He was a really, really good guy. He put a lot of things on my plate, and I was ready to handle them. I was ready to handle them. I was ready to produce. I just wanted to play. I was out there sometimes not even knowing what I was doing for real. Not even knowing what I was doing, I'm going to be honest. But I was just playing full speed, just playing as fast as I can. And sometimes that just made up for it. You would have never known if I didn't say it. But hey, it is what it is at times. And as a unit, I know that we were really one of the stronger units. I can attest to what you were saying. Like, we were really a really strong unit. I think our record kind of took away from that. But, us being a combo on the field together, the unit as a whole, not just me and Frank, but everybody.
Yeah.
We all contributed.
Justin was one of my more like underrated linebackers, and Alex, I can't say his last name. He's got Tongan last name, but like I didn't even know this dude existed because I think he was a late signing and whatnot because he all had the
Supplemental draft.
Yeah, supplemental pick, and like I going into the season, like I knew who Frank was because he played in the AAF, had some NFL ties and whatnot. But seeing, and I hate to say this, like some more lesser known players, because you had obviously the Gamblers had a bunch of NFL retreads and whatnot. To see you guys go out there and succeed in some of these blocks that you guys were taking on, and I hate to throw shade at the defensive line because I thought that was the strength of the team, except for one player who likes to do dances and whatnot. He's probably a cool guy. I don't know him, but catch him on Netflix. But but I felt, overall, man, some of the assignments you guys were, dealing with, I felt like there was a lack of support in certain aspects on your defense, and that kind of took away from what you were doing, what Justin was doing, and what Frank was doing, and because you guys were like could easily have been 7-3 based off the scores and whatnot, and that was the most frustrating thing watching is like one play away. And
Absolutely.
I mean that Gamblers game, like you guys gave up 7 points or something like that in the opening game, like the defense did. So I mean, it is what it is. But how involved was Coach Fisher in the defense, especially with a younger staff? I know the DB coach Jeff had an NFL experience, but he's a defensive guy. Obviously, I think he was with the '85 Bears playing. So, and he's always been a defensive coach. How involved was he in y'all's defense? Kind of coaching Dan, and then in turn coaching y'all.
Well, Coach Fisher, he was kind of the cherry on top. I would say he was honestly a little bit more involved with the offense and primarily special teams. Primarily special teams. He's a wild card guy. What is it? The Music City Miracle.
Yeah.
All those cool things that he's done in his past with special teams. He was always looking for that edge, and special teams gives you that. He really, really helped me a lot in my protection scheme and my technique with punt block and blocking on punt as a wing guy. Can't wait to get back and do that, showcase those abilities.
Yeah.
He really helped do that. And then he was a cherry on top on defense. He would make sure, okay, are these breaks squeezed right here? He would just polish it off. He would let the defensive guys handle all the hard work with it, though, the heavy lifting.
So he wasn't like micromanaging it, which that's actually pretty awesome.
Never micromanaging made us feel like he was just staring over our shoulder or anything.
Yeah, I mean, a guy like that, everyone likes to poke fun at him with his 7-9, 8-8. The dude's got almost 190 career wins. So, like, I mean, I like Coach Fisher. Glad he's probably going back up to Montana to live his best life and whatnot. Do all that fly fishing. Have you talked to Coach Nolan at all coming in?
I haven't had the opportunity to speak to him. Really excited to hear from him. I saw that they actually visited our staff at Eastern Michigan, so I called my head coach about him and heard that he's a really big man of God and that we're in good hands. I heard that from Coach Runza as well.
Now, bringing up Coach Runza, he had nothing but good things to say about you, Frank, Justin, the whole linebacker room. I know you guys have talked a little bit. What's your take on him moving forward?
Like I say, Coach Runza, he's a really, really high energy guy. Seen the interview that he did earlier this week. High energy it's nothing artificial about that. He had me ready to run through a wall just off a phone call, 3 phone calls that I had at work with him. He's really excited to get out there and work with us. He wants to, definitely make it clear that we're in this as a unit. It's no, I'm bigger than the team, I'm bigger than the unit, even at the coaching level, since he has that title of a coach, but we're all trying to get one job done. And without a doubt, we will respect him and treat him as he is, a coach. But we all in this together. We all trying to make it to the next step. So I'm really excited to get up there with him and get to work with him. We're actually supposed to have a Zoom meeting this week. I'm going to do the best I can to make it, even though I'll be traveling.
Yeah. I mean, he seems like an awesome guy from my conversation with him. How are you feeling about a couple of your old teammates coming up now, especially with the team playing in Michigan? Kajan on the team now, Gunner, CD, seems like the band is getting back together a little bit.
Absolutely. Kajan played offensive tackle my freshman and sophomore year when I was at Eastern. He was a really good player for us, and he had a little stint in the league on jumping around to different practice squads and stuff like that. Made a good deal of money for himself, being a Detroit guy. Really excited to get back on the field with him. He's been touching bases with me, on a bi-monthly standard, just trying to see what I know and if we condition and, hey, who do you think is the best guy that I got to compete against? Well, it looks like it's clean slate. We got a lot of different new guys on the offensive front, so
probably for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. So that spot's up for the taking. Obviously, I'm hoping the best for Kajan, and that's great news to have him on the team. Gunner actually called me on the day of the draft, like prior to getting picked and stuff, which is crazy. I didn't realize that he had spoke to Coach Nolan and Steve K's our GM. I didn't realize that. And I told him, hey, man, just go into this thing knowing that we will draft your rights and you know what to expect. We're close to home. Gunner's a Toledo guy. He came in my year, 2017, so I know Gunner really well. Live with the guy. He literally was like in the room next to me. Live with the guy. I know what he has to offer, what he's going to bring to the table as a player. Nice big frame, reliable hands. He's going to block. He's a good player. So the ball is in his court right now. He's playing with house money. He get an opportunity to still pursue the league, and he know he has something to fall back on. City, I think that was a real gutsy pick. Great pick, in my opinion. City's probably going to get drafted. In my opinion, he's my guy. I'm hoping that City goes in the first 3 rounds. He has that potential. He's a great player.
Yeah.
Going up and practice against City for 5 years straight. Strong as an ox.
Yeah.
Nimble feet. He got a little small DB feet, man. Like that guy has a punch too. He packs a punch.
Yeah.
City's gonna do real well. But hey, if something unorthodox happens, he'll be my teammate again.
I mean, that's pretty awesome too, and that's always the coolest thing for me is when like the connections in this league and you know with players and whatnot, and you kind of get that sometimes. It's like you know, a receiver gets signed or a quarterback gets signed, and you're like, yeah, well that makes sense because they played together at college, you know, and. I mean, Josh Love had that connection with that dude from the Maulers had like 7 San Jose State guys. And
right.
I do like the fact that from a business standpoint, they are keeping Michigan guys in Michigan because now it's like, okay, now you got the Eastern Michigan guys here and the Michigan State guys here. You know, I think Lano Hill was a
U of M guy.
Yeah, so it's like now you're bringing those fans in, and then you're like, you know, all it takes is a couple people in the stands, and then with how good the Lions were this year, you know, people are going to be excited for the Panthers, you know, and I think that's going to be awesome. Moving forward, let's talk about you as a man. I talked to your dad a little bit. Seems like an awesome dude. I've never met him in person. He's talking about all the stuff you're doing with the kids and like wrestling and whatnot. You want to talk about that?
Absolutely. In high school, I wrestled my freshman year up until my junior year. Had a little injury, so I wasn't able to wrestle my senior year. But I know that sport itself, it contributed a lot into the athlete and the man I am now. Brought a lot of mental fortitude to my ability to, you know, keep going, keep fighting forward when things aren't going my way. And just from a physical standpoint, taught me how to be more flexible, taught me more balance, it taught me leverage. It was a lot of life lessons learned in wrestling. You got to be strong up top to keep your weight right and not go eat too many chicken wings before before weigh-ins and stuff like that. So coming back, I know my brother, we were going to have him wrestle, and it's been a really good year for him. But a big point that our head wrestling coach made was the greatest way to support him is to, you know, be right there with him, be mat side with him. And I was able to work out with the guys, work out with the team, and, you know, just see their process from a different lens. I was never with the wrestling team in the preseason and stuff like that because obviously I was playing football. Just to see what those guys go through way before months prior to the season, it was definitely special. I went from the beginning all the way to the end, up until the very last match of our season. I was there, so it meant a lot to me. We had three guys reach the state finals, like the first place match. We had 2 guys take first, 1 guy take second, 2 guys take third, and 1 guy fourth. Really good season. Even my brother made it to state as a second-year wrestler.
That's awesome. Now, and get into, if you want to, like your travel plans in the next couple of days right before camp. What do you, if you want to tell people about that going on?
So my plans are to take my truck up there. I hate driving, but in order to get my truck up there, probably the best decision to make is to drive it on up there. It's about 10 and a half hours.
Referring to your trip.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. My trip to Africa.
If you want to talk about it.
Absolutely. I would love to talk about it. My trip to Africa, I'm going to Ghana specifically. I'm going with a great friend of mine. His name is Ryan Glover. We're in support of his foundation, Cal's World. It's ran by him and his mom, Tamika Foster. We're going out there to, I'm going to be coaching specifically, probably the linebackers and just defensive guys in general at his annual football camp in Ghana, Africa. So I can't wait to go over there. I'll be there from March 3rd through the 8th. It's about 5 days in Africa, just spending time on a continent I've never even imagined of going. So this is a great opportunity for me, and I can't wait.
I mean, Ghana, just the whole continent, in my opinion, is, I've had the privilege of going there and doing some work, and some of the people I've encountered and talked to, and just the work that, whether it's, building a church, or, helping, and just everything about the continent is, in my opinion, beautiful, and some of the nicest people I've ever met. So I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome that you're bringing football over there. I know the NFL is doing a bunch of stuff in, Africa and Europe, and expanding the game. But I mean, just tapping into those two markets, in my opinion, is just going to make one, change people's lives, whether it be if they get to a professional level, but it's also giving, and that's what sports does. It gives kids stuff to do, and it teaches them accountability and all those, like, stereotypical, like, accountability, like fitness, all that goofy stuff. And I know it sounds cliche, but in reality, like, I mean, we're only on this earth for a finite amount of time. If you could do one good thing for one kid, I think you made a difference. And I think that's exactly what you're doing right now, man. So, I mean, that to me, and, not to stroke egos too much, is more impressive than anything you'll ever do on the field. Because in the end, like, you got one kid making his life just a little bit better. I mean, that's what it's all about, man, in my opinion.
Absolutely, man. This sport has brought me so many relationships and memories that I'll never, ever forget. So just being able to present them with the game of football. They don't even have a lot of footballs, like literal footballs over there in Ghana. So just showing them and letting them meet a pro player, it means the world to me.
I mean, you're going to make a lot of kids' lives, man. I think, we only got about two more minutes, but, just to close it out, I think that's going to, like I said, that's more impressive to me than anything you'll ever do on the field. And that's not to discredit you as a player, but I think it speaks more volumes to you as a man. Because, like, I know the USFL doesn't have a saying, but the NFL's got that not for long thing. So you can go play in the league for 3 years or whatever that minimum, the average is. But, like, what are you going to do as a man, to me, is, like, the next time I talk to you, I'd rather hear all about, like, what you did for these kids and, the season. Obviously, y'all win the championship. Like, we talked about that for hours, but man, I think for me, especially all the work like I do overseas and whatnot, that to me is the coolest thing ever.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
So wrapping it up, final 2 minutes, man. What can we expect from you this year? What can we expect from the Panthers this year?
It's going to be a different unit we put out on the field. As a defense, an offense, we're going to be a lot more productive. Personally, I want to have a lot more ball production this season. I want to take the football away at the linebacker level a lot more. I want to create turnovers. I'm going to train ball disruption outside a little bit more outside of practice, punching the football out, trying to rake the ball when somebody's holding them up, practicing, getting my head around and catching a pick. Like, I had a lot of opportunities where I could have just turned around and caught the interception, but I was more worried about just breaking the pass up, trying to play it safe. I just want to take the football away a little bit more. I want to be ball greedy.
Do it. Let's do it, man. Well, guys, that wraps it up. A little bit of a short time. Terry's busy. I'm busy. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Appreciate Terry, you coming out here and just, like, talking and everything like that. Like I said, man, it's a privilege to even know you as a man more than a football player as anything else. So appreciate you guys. Guys, make sure you check it out. Check out the interview, do all that goofy stuff. Like, share, subscribe. I'm sure Terry and I will talk throughout the season. If you guys got any comments, questions for him, let me know and I'll relay them. And then that's really it, guys. Terry, where can they find you real quick? 30 seconds.
Okay, on Instagram, you can find me at Terry Myrick _. My name is spelled on the YouTube link. You'll be able to see it. And then on Twitter, it's Terry _Myrick. Pretty simple, nothing crazy. You can find me on those two platforms. Peace and thanks.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Later.